Refraction of light and object reflection are two of my favorite inspirations, and the camera and the paintbrush are two favorite tools to my art. Between the four, there are infinite possibilities of creation and beauty. This video presents to you the capturing of my inspirations and infatuation with street art and nature's art, in this case, marble. Street art to me happens to be anything I find beautiful in my daily encounters outside my apartment or studio. The reflection off the subway that inspires me to think mirrored reflectivity. And the now famous graffiti building near my home and studio in Long Island City, New York, which allows us to let go of possession of art and share with our community an inspiration or thought happening in the now. Highly reflective Mylar is only 3 to 4% less reflective than mirrored glass and costs less than $1 a square foot. In fact, NASA uses this product for the most advanced technology and telescopic innovation. I'm not going to build a telescope in this demonstration, but I'll be happy to paint the Mylar for NASA if they'd like. Sounds backwards. Why would I want to block reflectivity and put opaque paint on Mylar? Simply to reimagine the area of reflection as a manifestation of marbleized mirror. And of course, to make funny faces at you. Like street art, there's not much permanence on painting on Mylar. It's very reflective and shiny, therefore it's not going to stick very well, and you don't really want to etch into the surface because that will ruin the reflectivity. Anyway, here's an underbody primer, and I want to build up some layering. So I start with the white, just pure white, and then add my gray tone on top of that. On top of the grays, I add blues. So you get a layering and then even a darker blues, like almost a Payne's gray with cyan and black. So you get a lot of layering and depth and intensity of color. And you want to study the real marble and how it breaks, or concrete with pressure and time and how it shatters under your feet almost. It doesn't do it in a second, it does it in time. So this is kind of the idea with the blue. There was a bodega that I got inspiration as street art. He covered up the street art with blue paint, didn't have enough blue paint, so he got more blue paint in a different shade, and therefore creating street art once again. And so I tried to represent that in the marble with the blue on blue and the splashed paint in almost this violent way, but I get my inspiration on a gray day while the molecules of water splash on the glass. I studied the light reflection and refraction. Here I have put an orange underbody next to the blue underbody, yet I marry the two colors with a neutral grayish brown on top. Therefore, the complementary colors work really well next to each other. There's only about 6 colors on my palette in total, and I mix all colors and variations of intensity with those. And here you see a close-up look of the riverbed of veins next to the fragmentation, which are the Mylar fragments as well as the opaque white fragments. The composition of fragmentation and color does take time to fully understand, but I'll do my best to concisely explain. When we paint on symmetrical surfaces, like a panel of Mylar, or an actual constructed surface, like a wall or millwork, we tend to restrict our dimensions and perception according to the size surface we are working on. You know, marble or nature do not know this and frankly wouldn't care, so we need to think outside of these dimensions. The phrase, "think outside of the box," comes to mind. Fragmentation occurs everywhere in nature. We must open our eyes and recognize the spaces sculpted around objects of beauty. Here we have beautiful cherry blossoms, but look beyond the white and pink of the flower and in between the dark brown branches to the spaces in between, the backdrop and the sky. It is this depth and rhythm of shapes that is created which makes the blossoms so beautiful. Now I'm not painting blossoms, obviously, but do you still see the rhythm of shapes? There are small fragments next to large fragments, medium fragments near tiny fragments, and there's a flow to them, like an Arctic glacier breaking off into the ocean and flowing with the current. It's all moving, the water, the earth, and painting it, we must respect that. To explain the layering of color, it is best imagined with baking. Yes, dough. If you have your flour-based yeast, flattened it with your roller, and added a blue line of dye in the middle, and folded it in half and flattened it again, then repeated this process with various colors. Then you can cut and break the dough in half. You can see how the colors blend and separate along with the base color of the dough. Now, earth works similarly, but much more violently in the sense that there are layers and layers of color in various regions of our planet. The crystalline whites, the oxidious reds and yellows, the vegetative greens, carbon blacks, and sometimes pinks and blues, all formed in a similar process from the ocean floor. With pressure, time, and climate, erosion lifted the ocean bed up and was covered in lime deposits. The ocean creatures or fossils were captured in erosion. Through volcanic reaction, earth shifting, etc., it opened pockets and riverbeds for minerals to flow through. Since limestone is naturally white in pure form, the mixing reaction with these mineral deposits and earth movements created the various types of color of marble. Aside from Geology 101, I got my inspiration of pinks next to greens and white from the blossoms, but imagined orange instead of red, and blue instead of greens, and blended them with earth tones such as raw umber and raw sienna. I like to work with golden acrylics because of speed of drying to layer on color in minutes, which gives me a few seconds to soften or blend as well. It would be difficult to do this in oil because the Mylar would keep the oils open much longer and the process would take days instead of minutes or hours. In a sense of design, as you can see, the opaque acrylic has blocked out the reflective Mylar, and you can see my reflection only in the various fragments that remain unpainted. So if one of my designers wanted something contemporary yet traditional, painting marble on mirror with glass pane enamel could be an option. I have personally not seen it done, but done under a chair rail would add more reflective options nearer to the floor, and since the riverbed of veins in the marble break up the full reflective properties of the mirror, the concept would not be invasive or bizarre. Other design or artistic options would be to paper a ceiling or powder room wall with backed reflective Mylar and install it like wallpaper. Either prior to installation or after, one could paint a mural or a chinoiserie on top. The possibilities are only limited to one's imagination. With the world and its art changing moment by moment, it is important to adapt and evolve with it. Today's graffiti on the side of the bodega's wall will be tomorrow's botched blue brick, and the art will be later admired next to the Impressionists, Postmodernists, and contemporary sections of the Met or the Louvre. Graffiti is hardly a debatable movement at this point, so it's important to push the limits, sign your name, agitate the comfortability of society's standards of art, and break it apart into fragments, and let the riverbeds of creativity be filled. Let the billions of years of Earth be our example.